Many studios try to look for anything they can turn into a profitable IP, none more so than the horror genre. It seems like almost everything has been done before, and so fresh ideas are hard to come by. So sometimes they turn to non-horror properties and try to find a way to add a spook factor to it. And more often than not, are wildly unsuccessful. Before we begin, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Every new sub helps us achieve our goal and keeps us motivated to create new content. With that being said, I'm your host, Jamie, and here are the 10 worst horror films based on non-horror properties. Number 1. Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. It may surprise some, but I was looking forward to a slasher take on Winnie the Pooh once the rights became part of public domain. I saw the first teaser for Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey and thought, that looks terrible. But in a fun way. Turns out, it was just terrible. It somehow managed to take itself too seriously and be extremely goofy at the same time. Its production was cheap beyond amateur. It is sloppily edited, poorly scripted, and badly acted. And my bar was not even high. Even the kills were disappointing. In Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, an adult Christopher Robin returns to the 100-acre wood, and all his animal friends have become psychopaths because they felt abandoned. I actually thought it was a cool idea. That premise could provide the minimum required depth and pop psyche to feel a 90-minute film before it went unhinged. The filmmakers didn't even give us that though. The upside is, it sounds like the sequel improved on it in every way. Here's hoping. You can find it streaming over on Peacock, Apple TV, Fandango, Prime, or Google Play. Number 2. The Curse of Humpty Dumpty. Humpty Dumpty had a great fall, but he never fell so far as the curse of Humpty Dumpty. In this film, Wendy, a mother who just celebrated her 50th, has been diagnosed with Alzheimer's. She returns to a family home so that her daughters are close by. The place triggers memory, and Wendy starts piecing together darker fragments of her past, which include a creepy Humpty Dumpty doll that her husband gave her. I'd truthfully like to see this movie remade with a bigger budget and a couple of A-listers. The Curse of Humpty Dumpty actually isn't as bad as I'm letting on, but its inconsistent quality in editing and lighting combined together with a frequently illogical script make the experience much worse than what we actually get. The Curse of Humpty Dumpty is trying to convey the experience of Alzheimer's and memory loss. But between its blandness and some poor execution, it fails to live up to a lot of potential. If you absolutely must see this for yourself, you can, over on Tubi, Pluto, Plex, VIX, Fandango, or Apple TV. Number 3. Bring It On, Cheer or Die. This isn't the first or last time I'll admit I was looking forward to something on this list. In this case, a slasher take on Bring It On. I also wasn't expecting much from another installment because, aside from Hayden Panettiere starring in the third film, lending it some credibility, the original was the only good film in the entire series. I came in with a low bar and was still disappointed. Bring It On, Cheer or Die looks like a generic show you see on primetime. That and its poor script and often overly theatrical acting gave it a knockoff Disney Channel original movie vibe. Bring It On, Cheer or Die is a PG-13 slasher, and I've seen very few really make this work. An R rating is damn near essential for the subgenre. And in the case of Cheer or Die, which everything is also lackluster, they cut away from the kills fairly quickly too. Bring It On, Cheer or Die is supposed to be a comedy, so it hasn't fully branched out to horror anyway. Expect plenty of sophomoric humor and groan-inducing cheer puns. The plot is simple. There is a mass murder, using the high school mascot's garb specifically, who stalks and kills the cheerleaders. This particular cheer squad has been made fun of by their competition for their lack of daring cheerleader stunts. So the cheer squad decides to practice risky maneuvers in an abandoned high school, which is where the masked killer picks them off. Once the cheerleaders figure out that they are being targeted, the diverse band of cheerleaders have to come together to thwart the killer. Turn off your brain and power through this if you can over on Fubo, Hulu, Sling, Prime, Google Play, Apple TV, or Fandango.
Looking for some new duds to dazzle your friends and family with? Support Fat Ninja Studios by heading over to fatninja.shop and checking out our very own merch store. We've got everything from shirts, hoodies, hats, shoes, and more. Again, check out fatninja.shop. Every dollar spent goes to our big fund jar and helps us produce more quality content and short films. Thanks again.
Number 4. Pride, Prejudice, and Zombies. For the sake of argument, this film is based on a book of the same title, but ultimately it's still a horror take of Jane Austen's classic, Pride and Prejudice. The movie, while not terrible, lacks the bite of the book and the wit of the original novel as well. For those unfamiliar with the original novel, it's a love story that focuses on the Bennet family's 5 daughters, who most of them want to be married. It specifically follows the love story of Elizabeth Bennet and Fitzwilliam Darcy, who are both of different social classes. And the book is a beautifully written critique on assumptions we make about class. Pride, Prejudice, and Zombies throws zombies created by a plague into the mix, with Darcy being a zombie hunter. It's fun and entertaining, but never hits the highs of what it could have been. The hype around it at the time made it seem worse than it is. If you can't help yourself, you can dive in over on Prime, Google Play, Apple TV, or Fandango. Number 5. Red Riding Hood. Red Riding Hood's biggest disservice is it wastes its star talent, Amanda Seyfried in particular, but also Gary Oldman. The film is a darker retelling of Little Red Riding Hood, although the original grim fairy tale is darker than the brand we know now. And while it is labeled as a horror fantasy, I'd argue it's more a romantic fantasy with horror elements. I was admittedly looking forward to a dark take on Little Red Riding Hood. Unfortunately, Red Riding Hood is extremely cliche in both its romance and fantasy elements. It does often nail the horror aesthetic. It also contains a forced, unoriginal love triangle. Some of these issues shouldn't come as a surprise, as director Catherine Hardwicke also helmed Twilight. Although, in her defense, the brunt of problems in Red Riding Hood lie in David Leslie Johnson's sloppy script. The narrative is weak, and the dialogue is frequently cringe-inducing. If you're coming into this film looking for a solid horror version of Little Red Riding Hood, you will be disappointed. Red Riding Hood certainly has visual flair, but neither that nor Seyfried are enough to lift it out of subpar territory. Head on over to Prime or Google Play to check it out. Number 6. Pinocchio's Revenge. When it comes to horror adaptations, they don't get much more ridiculous than Pinocchio's Revenge. Keep in mind, this film came out in the 90s, long before the likes of Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. Basically, a lawyer is trying to defend a convicted child murderer whom she believes is actually innocent. She receives a large Pinocchio puppet as a belated evidence. When she brings it home to study it, instead of using logic and having forensics experts look it over, her daughter Zoe mistakes it as her birthday present and becomes attached to it. This is when Zoe starts to become unbalanced. Soon, unfortunate events, like the bully at her school getting killed by being pushed in front of a bus, or the mom's boyfriend David getting knocked down the basement stairs, begin to pile up. Of course, no one believes the little girl when she says the puppet did it. Then she starts seeing a psychiatrist, and, well, you see where this is going. It's basically just child's play, except much worse, and with what the studio was hoping would be a more iconic doll. It has some decent kill scenes, but otherwise this was one of those horror films that went straight to VHS back in the day. Only die-hard enthusiasts should add this to their digital library. If that's you, head on over to Prime, Apple TV, Google Play, or Fandango to check it out. Number 7. The Mean One. The Mean One is a twisted twist on Dr. Seuss's holiday classic, The Grinch. Little Cindy, but not Lou Who, who is definitely more than two, witnesses her mother killed by a Grinch-like creature dressed as Santa Claus. Cut to 2 decades later, her and her father return to their hometown of Newville. The Grinch-like murderer was dubbed the Christmas Killer, but never caught and has allegedly not appeared since the fatal incident. Until Cindy Lou Who, just Cindy, returns. Everything about the mean one is noticeably cheap, from the production to the gore effects. The acting is also fairly stiff, and the characters lack a semblance of logic. I will say, I feel like production effects, gore, budget, went mostly to one scene in a diner that involved a grisly bloodbath. I did appreciate the handful of nods and the one-liners that called back to the Grinch storybook. However, none of the gore or Easter eggs were enough to keep my heart from shrinking 3 sizes this day. You can watch it for yourself over on Starz, Hulu, Sling, Roku, Prime, Philo, Google Play, Apple TV, or Fandango. Number 8. Truth or Dare. 2018's Truth or Dare isn't actually as bad as some of the films on this list. I feel like I was much more ruthless to it before. Don't get me wrong. The film is bad, but mainstream movie bad. A lot of the technical aspects are serviceable and professional. Truth or Dare's biggest creepy element was the exaggerated smile on each victim. But it was done pretty poorly, so it just looked like a distortion filter. Fast forward to 2022's Smile, which was not only deliciously frightening with an engaging story, but those filmmakers pulled off the creepy smile so well that audiences forgot, or at least pretended to forget, that Truth or Dare did it first. The idea behind Truth or Dare had more potential than anything that was actually delivered. The characters have to play Truth or Dare. If they fail to play, and this includes lying if they choose truth, they die. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. A lot of PG-13 horror hurts itself by not just being rated R, especially ones that involve elaborate deaths. If all else fails, some grisly kills can at least make it worth a watch. To quote Randy from Scream 2, "Carnage candy. The audience just expects it." Regardless, Truth or Dare suffers from being bland, cliche, with flat, illogical characters. If you haven't already seen it, find out for yourself, because the truth is, I dare you to check it out on Fubu, Hulu, Sling, Prime, Google Play, or Fandango. Number 9. Alice in Terrorland. Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey virtually opened the floodgates for films like Alice in Terrorland, and we'll continue to see more of these cheap, unabashed horror retellings in the coming years. This film is the newest on the list, being released just this year, and actually had something going for it. Alice, a bereaved young woman who recently lost her mother, goes to live with her grandmother in her secluded estate in the woods. Alice is said to be a relative of Lewis Carroll, who is the real-life author of the book Alice in Wonderland. In the film's canon, Carroll was supposedly inspired to write the book based on his experiences at the estate. Alice in Terrorland is actually a fairly grounded psychological horror film with a skilled cinematographer involved. The real problem, it's fairly humdrum in its narrative. For those looking for a ridiculous camping gore, you will be sorely disappointed. For those seeking out a thrilling psychological journey, you may find it all too familiar. The upside is, Alice in Terrorland is a brisk 1 hour and 17 minutes. So catch it on Tubi, Plex, Prime, Google Play, Fandango, or Apple TV. Number 10. The Jack in the Box. 2019's British horror film, The Jack in the Box, is loosely based on the famous Jack in the Box toy and tune. As with a handful of films on this list, this film errs on the side of only being mainstream bad. While its aesthetic does scream TV movie, its production design isn't too shabby. Its biggest undoing is it moves at a snail's pace, even though it's under 90 minutes and is utterly cliche. If you like possessed dolls or cursed objects films, this might be interesting if you can get past the ample rehash. The Jack in the Box opens with an old couple digging up a box that reads Jack. The old woman is murdered, and the box winds up with a couple of museum curators. Every time this creepy Jack in the Box kills someone, it cuts to a kill counter that's on the box itself. Off topic, but if I anonymously received in the mail any toy that looked as nightmarish inducing as this Jack in the Box doll does, I'd burn it a holy crucible. The film does get points for acknowledging how unapologetically creepy the Jack in the Box is. However, it loses points for cutting away from a lot of the kills. Truthfully, I had mixed feelings about the Jack in the Box. It has some things going for it. But let me know your thoughts in the comments after you check it out on Peacock, Tubi, Redbox, Fandango, Plex, Prime, Roku, Apple TV, or Google Play. Thanks for checking out the video. Did we leave any films off the list? Let us know in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to tap that bell icon to stay up to date with our latest releases. You can reach out to us on Twitter or X at StudiosFat, or chat with us on Discord, linked below. If you're really enjoying our content and want to help support us, click that join button for exclusive content, rewards, and perks. Make sure to check out our very own merch store located at fatninja.shop. All proceeds go towards our next film project, so we'd greatly appreciate it. I've been your host, Jamie. Thanks again. See you in the next one.